It is 7 p.m. Welcome everyone to our first Board of Education meeting for the 2025 year. Thank you for joining us, both those who are joining us in person and online as well. We're going to go ahead and start with the chairperson's report. And today's going to be a little bit different. We usually start our meetings out with awards, and in today's circumstance, we have a very special one. In that I would like to take a few minutes to recognize Superintendent Burke for being awarded the 2024-25 Superintendent to Watch by the National School Public Relations Association. Each year, the NSPRA recognizes up to 25 school district leaders nationwide with less than 5 years of experience as superintendents who demonstrate dynamic, fast-paced leadership with strong communication at its core. Superintendent Burke's selection was based upon her innovative and effective use of technology to engage and inform the school community and to expand two-way communication and outreach efforts. So I'd like to read a brief segment of the nomination form that was submitted on her behalf. A superintendent's communication skills are put to the test during conflict and crisis. Time and again, when challenging issues arise, Superintendent Burke seems to instinctively know how to effectively connect with people, diffuse tension, and support everyone to work together in achieving common goals. She takes in multiple perspectives, thinks deeply, and strategizes when needed. She never fails to address harm and to work to repair it. So during the swatting incident a few months back, I happened to be driving home from work when I got the text that this was actually occurring. So since I was on the way, I immediately went to Central Services to see how things were going and what I could do to help. So one of the things I wanted to describe to everyone, and from my perspective, as I walked in, what I saw was absolute calm. There was no panic. There was no chaos. And you could hear a pin drop in that office because every single individual was doing exactly what they needed to be doing in that moment to make sure everything was running as smoothly as possible. And you could see that they were focused on doing that precise job. Sherry was multitasking between calls with the police and the principals, as well as managing conversations with Linda Powell and Assistant Superintendent Jen Parsons, and drafting correspondence to the community regarding the status of the process. And I watched as she seamlessly pivoted between correspondence and conversation with multiple parties simultaneously while maintaining the utmost focus and calm. Several times this week, I've said to various parties that this role in which we serve is a privilege, and with that comes this privilege to recognize our outstanding superintendent to watch, who is bringing effective change to our schools in such a complicated environment and highlighting our town on a national level. We appreciate you and thank you for bringing your talent to our children and the Granby community.
I thought we were going to quick recognition.
We have a gift for you as well.
Okay, very kind. Should I open it?
Yes, of course.
Special. Oh, but I'm not retiring or anything like that.
But it's superintendent to watch.
A clock, of course. How clever. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a team effort. Absolutely nothing that you described is done alone, right? So we have a phenomenal team. We have a relatively new team. So we're gelling quickly and we're working hard. And when I started, communication was and continues to be, the most important thing alongside student achievement and preparing our kids for their future. I'm just blessed with a big Italian family where multitasking and talking to lots of people all at once is very much a part of who I am as a person, and it comes in handy every once in a while when we might have a little thing happening. So it's a busy job, and I'm so grateful to my team. I think just the other day I said, thank you for who you are, because we really have a great leadership team, and our teachers and our staff and our students and our families were blessed to lead and serve. So thank you. I'm happy to bring some recognition to Granby because we do really good stuff here. And so if that can just, shine a little light on our sweet little town, then I'm happy to do that.
We are grateful for it. Thank you so much for all your hard
really
work.
Nice
it's really been fantastic. We're very proud.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to we switched things around a little bit on the agenda for this time to give, I'm going to pivot back to you, Superintendent Burke, to give you an opportunity to discuss recent events.
Yes. So without skipping a beat, right, the job is multifaceted, and schools today, are different than they were certainly when I started teaching, and our families and our students are dealing with a lot. It's a very dynamic, ever-changing environment, and so I did send out a second communication this afternoon related to our lockdown that occurred at Granby Middle and High School, although the incident was occurring at the high school. It's very challenging to be someone that strives to communicate as fully and openly and transparently as we can, and have a commitment to privacy and individual rights, and all of the essential components to really make sure that we protect, as you've heard me say before, each and every child, including the ones that make big mistakes, right? Because we care about them too. And so in my communication, I was able to share that, unfortunately, there are some questions that will be left unanswered. And I do know that there are speculations and rumors that are going to be out there in the community. And I'm not in a position to answer to each and every one of those. And frankly, we have much more important things to attend to, teaching and learning every day. But I did share that we did identify the individuals that were responsible for the disruption that occurred. Although there was no weapon, thankfully, we believed that there was one. And so we acted swiftly. And because of that, people were fearful and scared, and it took a better part of our day. And so the police did confirm on premises after a very thorough search. They searched the building, cars, lockers, backpacks, persons. We are so grateful to the relationship that we have with our Granby police officers. The chief himself, the lieutenant himself were on site as first responders in our community. They did confirm that there was no weapon, there was no imminent threat or danger. However, there was a significant disruption, and for that, there are consequences through the school district for that disruption, and the Granby Police are continuing to work in partnership with us. And that is a police matter for which I will not speak to, but I am able to confirm that yes, there is police involvement, and we do have students that are working with the police currently as a result of this incident. Okay? And I hope not to be sending more of those communications. Our communication today really attempted to share with our broader parent community just how important it is to ensure that your children understand the seriousness of which their words will be taken. I have 4 children myself. I have 3 sons. We joke. We say things we don't really mean. We banter in the school environment in 2025. Words have weight, and they will be met with a serious reaction because we are charged to keep everyone safe. And so we just ask that we really do our job as a community to encourage, just really we need to be rid of this violent language, and threatening language. That will go a really long way. So in partnership, we ask that, we all work on that. So I hope that I'm not continuing to send communications of that nature. In addition to that, I have a couple other brief updates. Kindergarten registration is open, if you can believe it, for the 25-26 school year. There will be an early release on Wednesday, January 29th for professional learning. There is no school on Monday, January 20th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday. I do want to remind members of the board and the community that we have our 3-board meeting. That's where the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education come together to review our +1 budget recommendations. That's an important meeting for the trajectory of our budget process, and that is on Tuesday, January 21st at 7 p.m. There is a strings concert on Monday, January 27th, and a middle school band concert tomorrow evening. I also want to take a moment to thank Kate Widener-Gardner, our Director of Pupil Services, and Jennifer Hudson, a parent, who co-lead the SEPTO meeting. And this is a PTO specifically for parents of children with special needs. I attended their meeting Monday evening. And Heidi McDonald, Dr. Mack from Wells Road School, and her intern, Taylor Barberi, presented on executive functioning skills, and it was fascinating. It was very well attended. That presentation will be posted online if people are interested in taking a look at it. It was very timely and really well done. And lastly, our next meeting will be on February 5th. I want to share that at the February 5th meeting, on the agenda will be a return to the conversation about a school resource officer. That survey was open for about a week and a half. It just closed. We had 750 responses to that survey. That is a great representation from our community. And everyone was represented: students, community members without children in our district, parents, and certainly staff. It was a request of the board to do that. And so on February 5th, I will bring details related to that feedback, as well as answer or attempt to answer many of the questions that were posed in the survey. Pages and pages, hundreds of comments and questions were presented, so we're still working through those. But the quick facts are that 80% of the respondents believe we should add an SRO. 79% likewise support an increase to the budget to support an SRO, and 81% believe that this position would be beneficial to the district. So an overwhelming support for the position, and then the hard work comes of what is that position going to look like, and are we answering the questions of our community related to that position. So we will get right to work on that program proposal, and we will ask for a vote of the board to take action on that February 5th meeting, so that we have that decision made prior to engaging in the operating budget presentations to come. Okay. Yeah. Those are all of my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Superintendent Burke. Next up, we have public comment. Granby community engagement and attendance at Board of Education public meetings is welcomed and encouraged. As is our custom, the board views public comment as an opportunity for members of the public to share their comments and concerns with the board, and board members will not be responding to comments or engaging in a dialogue. As it deems appropriate, the board may place such matters on the agenda for future meetings for discussion in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 5 minutes, and speakers will be asked to identify themselves by name and address. We expect comments to be respectful and civil in tone, and we do not permit name-calling, raised voices, personal attacks, or vulgarity. Lastly, we note that the superintendent is responsible for student and personnel matters. No speaker will be permitted to use public comment to bring complaints against any teacher, student, or staff member, or to discuss student matters which are confidential. Therefore, the use of student, teacher, or staff names is not permitted. Any such complaints or concerns should be directed to the superintendent and her team. As is our practice, we start public comment with those who are currently present in the room, and then we'll move over to Zoom. If there's anybody on Zoom that wishes to make public comment, please be sure to enter your name into the chat, and we will get to you in short order. Is there anyone in the room who would like to make public comment? Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Eman. I live 29 Pheasant Run, North Granby. I'm the proud mom of 3 boys. One graduated in 2024 and attends Purdue University going for engineering. One is currently a senior, plays lacrosse, is graduating this spring, and will be going to St. Michael's College to play lacrosse on an academic and athletic scholarship. And the other one is currently a sophomore, following in his older brother's footsteps with a rigorous academic schedule and also playing lacrosse, although he's sidelined right now as a result of an ACL injury. I attribute this to the quality education and experience my children are receiving in this community. I'm currently the chairperson for Granby Parents for a Safe Graduation and have been for the last 2.5 years. For the past 38 years, Granby Parents for a Safe Graduation has been inviting Granby High School graduates to celebrate graduation night in a substance-free, safe environment at the Farmington Valley YMCA. Graduates are picked up by bus from the high school and dropped off at the Y for 4+ hours of fun before being returned to the high school. We offer food, all donated by local vendors, and fun activities. Activities include a volleyball tournament with cash prizes for the best team t-shirts and the best team overall, a mechanical bull, swimming, rock climbing, a magician, an airbrush tattoo artist, chair massages, games, and more. We have a cash prize contest for all seniors to design the invitation, which Mrs. Hecht, we work with Mrs. Hecht, and she'll be announcing that with the person who's in charge of that soon. That design is then made into a commemorative keepsake t-shirt. And I do have, Monica, I did send you a link of pictures from the event last year. I don't know if you want to share that with other board members, if you're allowed to do that or not.
I mean, I can't right now.
No,
but-
that's fine. And these are actually, if you guys can see them, like pictures of the invitations that students have created the last 2 years. And we then turn that into a t-shirt. The highlight of the evening, though, is a raffle in which every graduate goes home with a gift, typically a gift card valued around $20 to $25. But we also have grand prizes for the students. In the past, these prizes have included televisions, computers, iPads, and Apple AirPods. We are not a nonprofit, and we are not a school-sanctioned or a YMCA-sanctioned event. We are a group of volunteer parents trying to raise funds and solicit prizes to put on a fully funded celebration for our graduating seniors. Ideally, we would be a group of underclassmen volunteer parents. Unfortunately, we don't always get enough volunteers, so some of us who are parents of seniors continue to do it year after year. I encourage parents that are in this audience and parents that are watching to find our Facebook page and consider volunteering for our once monthly events. Our next one is February 11th. We post upcoming meetings in Mr. Dunn's weekly high school email, and we also post it on our Facebook page. The high school has been a much appreciated help over the years in helping get information to students and parents. Each year, the Safe Grad Group core volunteers nervously await the final decision for when graduation day will be determined by you, the Board of Education. Last year, you offered a rain date. In an ideal world, graduation would always be on a Friday. But we understand that our not-so-ideal world is in New England, which brings unpredictable winter weather, and that almost always postpones the final graduation date, therefore creating a date on a Monday through Thursday when graduation will be. Postponing our event to be on a Friday is not realistic either, though. The whole idea of Safe Grad Night is to offer a safe night of celebration with the result of hopefully preventing a tragic accident that would otherwise occur or could otherwise occur on graduation night. Many of us who put time and effort into volunteering for this event work full-time jobs and do need to take time off from work for 1 or typically 2 days so that we can put on this event for the students. Getting additional volunteers to help, especially when it's a weeknight, is a major challenge for us to do. It's always easier getting it on a Friday, and again, we can't always guarantee it. And since we understand that you are bound by state laws when determining the graduation night, which in turn sets graduation day, we don't have any control over that. However, when I began speaking with the BOE president, Monica, regarding Safe Grad and setting a date, We talked last year, and I knew I wanted to come and present to you and talk a little bit about SafeGrad, because I do not think many people know what it is or what we do to make the event a successful evening. I do welcome conversation with you. I know you don't have conversation now, but I do welcome conversation with any of you if you have any questions regarding SafeGrad. And I do welcome the audience again to join us to help volunteer for the event. And if you can't help volunteer in preparation, then volunteer the night of, because we could use all the help we can get. And I encourage the Board of Education, if you'd like to come check it out, you're more than welcome to attend the night of the event. I would like that you just let me know so that I can let the volunteers there know that you would be attending. So, but I appreciate this time, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment?
Can I just say thank you for doing that? I have had 2 children who have taken part in the SafeGrad night, and I know you personally, Jen, and I know you do a lot of work for that program, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's a great evening, so I highly recommend volunteers, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie O'Neill, and I live at 215 Mountain Road. And I'm Sophia Brenson, and I live on 5 Farmview Lane. As discussed in previous board meetings, there have been many discussions about changing the schedule for next year, with longer 7-period days rather than 8-period days, no PLC on Thursday mornings, and potentially getting rid of study halls. As student reps, we feel like it's our responsibility to speak up about this change. While this change might seem beneficial to try to align schedules with the middle school, for others, it takes both a mental and physical toll on our students. After speaking with several of our peers about this topic, we decided that it was imperative that we need to discuss this decision. As a school that offers several sports per season, the student-athlete population of GMHS is a high one. Both of us are proud to call ourselves student-athletes because we get to both pursue our love for sports while also balancing upper-level classes. However, this means that students may need more time and support to be able to maintain a healthy balance between academics and athletics. Because at the end of the day, we are student athletes and education is our priority. By eliminating PLC from the weekly schedule, it takes away an extra hour of rest that our students could be getting after a long week of practices or after a tough game. For many students, using PLC as an additional study hall or just getting an extra hour of sleep helps them deal with their workloads better, ourselves included. As many athletes know, rest is key to good performance. You may ask yourself, is 1 extra hour of sleep really worth it? I can say, yes, it is. According to the CDC, 2 out of 3 high school and middle school students aren't getting enough sleep.
A good sleep schedule is imperative for adolescents to maximize their brain development. On top of this, students look to challenge themselves with harder classes that expect a bigger workload to build up their high school resume for when the time to start applying to colleges comes. By eliminating a whole period from the school day, it takes the opportunity away from some students to have a period of study hall, which is extremely beneficial and crucial for students taking upper-level classes or for students that simply don't have the time to do the work after school or at night. If there is no work to be done, it is a time to simply unwind and take a mental pause from challenging classes. Not only this, but study hall is a time for teachers to use to prepare for class or to help students catch up on missing work or assessments. In addition to all this, less periods in the day also mean less classes and humanities offered to students. We know that many of these amazing electives have introduced students to the arts, business, STEM fields, and other humanities. Without 8 periods a day, it will become very difficult for students to take these classes and potentially find new passions. We understand that a big goal for the board is to sync up the high school and middle school schedules, and we agree that we should try to do this. The board should definitely consider adding PLC to the middle school because it will benefit many people. It will help middle school students by having extra time to do work or to sleep in more. This can also be beneficial to parents who have kids both in the middle school and in the high school if they were able to bring them in both late. This can give middle school teachers more time to prepare for classes and collaborate with their counterparts. We understand the want and the need to implement changes. However, we hope that you see the merit in our ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to make public comment? Going once? Going twice? All right, I'm moving over to Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to make public comment?
There was, but she seems to have left. So,
Okay. If there's anyone on Zoom currently that wishes to make public comment, please identify yourself now. Going once? Going twice? Okay, public comment is closed.
she just came back.
Oh, she just came back. Okay. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Let her in. That's fine.
She can talk now.
Okay,
She may not know, I don't think she was on, I think she may not know that.
okay.
Hello?
There we go.
Oh,
Yes, is there someone on Zoom who wishes to make public comment?
yes, there is. I'm sorry. I was on the meeting, Beth Carroll, and I just rejoined it. I'm not, I don't see myself on there, but somehow I'm in here.
Yeah, so we see your name and we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I will be brief. My name is Beth Carroll, and I live at 10 Quail Lane. I would just like to make two public comments regarding the SRO, and I know Mrs. Burke was speaking about some of the results. I just wanted to say two things. I did review your presentation from the December video meeting, and I did in fact participate in the survey as a non-school community member. And I know these things will be addressed perhaps more fully as you proceed on, but just from reviewing the presentation that was made and taking part in the survey, I feel that the public, it would be beneficial for the public if we had more detail on how one person will be able to cover all of the schools. And I know you did reference that in the original, in the video, but I think it needs to be fleshed out because I do know plenty of people who have children in both Wells Road and children in the high school. Some people have made comments that we could probably use the full-time person at the high school, but I also know that the police have in fact been to the Wells Road school. So I think the more you could describe how that could work to the public, the more comfortable people would feel. And secondly, my last comment obviously goes to cost. And you did just mention some of the results, but when you just put in the survey, do you think it's a good idea? Yes. Do you think $100,000 is a good idea? People may say yes, but they're probably people with schools. I personally feel for the public's purpose, it would go a long way if during your budget, you could reference the fact that you were trying to offset some of this cost as opposed to just making it be an additive $100,000 on top of other additions. So that, in my opinion, would be very advantageous to at least try to do. And with that, I will end my public comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom who wishes to make public comment? All right, going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to close out public comment and move along to our student representative reports.
Okay, well, midterms are well underway. The first 2 days of testing were today and yesterday. NHS held virtual tutoring sessions for all underclassmen academic classes as a way to help them kind of like maybe learn how to study or learn what they need to study because we're people who like took the classes before. Yesterday, the elective fair was held for the 8th graders to like show them around the school and show them their options. The jazz band and chamber singers performed there. This was all after testing. There was a FAFSA workshop today for the seniors in the guidance department after testing. January 22nd will be the Poetry Out Loud finalist assembly, where students across all grades have competed and they've compiled the finalists from each grade to compete to represent the school at the state level. What else? As student representatives, we would like to quickly thank the Granby PD for the quick response during the lockdown we experienced on Monday and the effectiveness to diffuse the situation. I mean, compared to the first lockdown, it was way faster. We really appreciated that. Job Shadow Day will be held Monday, February 3rd. It's an opportunity for all students, if they wanted to find an outside expert and follow them around for the day to maybe get insights on potential jobs in the future or just explore an opportunity that they enjoy. 8th grade Parents Night will be held Tuesday, February 4th, with a tour at 5:45 and a program starting at 6:30 in the high school auditorium.
As for sports, our winter sports are now in full swing with several games and meets this week. Boys basketball had a game last night against Suffield away, and the girls also played against Suffield home. Boys wrestling had a meet tonight against Summers away. And our boys ice hockey team has a game versus North Branford away tonight. Boys basketball has another game against Aerospace Academy home on Friday night. And girls and boys indoor track have a meet away in Hartford on Saturday morning against a handful of schools. Girls basketball also has a game away at South Windsor on Saturday afternoon, and the swim team has a meet Saturday afternoon as well, home at the YMCA against Lakeview. Ice hockey also has a game home against Woodstock Academy on Saturday. And finally, boys wrestling has a meet away at Hall High School in West Hartford on Saturday morning.
Excellent. Sounds busy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Reports and discussion, Director of Finance and Operations report.
Before you is the December 2024 budget expense report for this fiscal year encompassing transactions through 12/31/24. As a whole, both personnel and program account expenditures remain consistent and are anticipated to be covered within the appropriated budget. The December report demonstrates no major fluctuations in expenditures on either side since last reported for the month of November. Negative balances continue to be monitored, with some of those negative balances already covered with available funds within other line items. Special education expenses continue to be within the spending plan. The continued negative balance associated with purchased services will be eliminated by utilizing a portion of the savings realized in the transportation line. Therefore, unless there is an increased need for additional contracted services, this account will be made whole. For the Quality and Diversity Fund, the first installment of the Open Choice Grant in the amount of $221,814 has been received, as well as additional monies for pre-K tuition. So current revenue received to date is $261,017. Revenue to the town for FY25 has decreased approximately $280,000 from 2289,234 to 2569,431 as reported for November. Although we are anticipating increased special education tuition revenue for provided services, the Bear Transition Academy revenue has been reduced due to decreased out-of-district student enrollment. We went from 3 students to 2 students, and some of the revised student schedules. Additionally, just recently, the state provided districts preliminary excess cost reimbursement percentages for FY25. At this time, Granby's expected reimbursement rate is 62.07%. which decreases expected revenue by $383,338 from previous reports. Furthermore, the finalized 23-24 PPE, which is the per pupil expenditure, should be available by the end of January, which I am happy to report this afternoon. They did make that finalized number available, which was increased by $764. So the PPE for 22-23 was $19,961. We are now at $20,725. And that amount is important because it both impacts excess cost and regular education tuition reimbursements. So once we kind of work those numbers out, those numbers will be updated with the next report. Any questions?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
So bless you.
Could I, a motion? There's a motion here? Yeah.
I move that the Granby Board of Ed approve the December 2024 budget expense report.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All right, moving along into the FY26 plus one budget Q&A. Based upon our last meeting, we had an opportunity to review the plus one budget, and then board members submitted questions individually based upon that presentation, and that is where we're going now.
Thank you. There's a PowerPoint, if we could bring that up, please. So just as a matter of introduction, we presented the first look at the plus one budget the last time we were together on December 18th, I believe. And over the holiday break, board members submitted questions. My team reviewed the questions thoroughly, did the appropriate research and analysis, and provided answers to those questions last week as a part of the board update. All of those questions and answers are now included as a part of the board packet and posted publicly so that the community can also see that Q&A document. So this evening, we will revisit some of the sort of themes or trends that were uncovered through the Q&A, and then offer any additional clarification. Tonight, the board is asked to approve or not the plus one budget so that we may present it in just a few short days on the 21st at the three-board meeting, which I spoke of a few moments ago. So this is our process. We have a number of weeks ahead of us, just about 2 months to continue to work through this process. We're very much at the infancy of this budget, looking ahead to FY26, and we've shared these dates previously. This year, we have brought forward to you a plus one increase of 5.67%. I apologize, I skipped something. I'll just go back for just a quick second. I already stated this, but just to refer to what's included in the plus one budget, this is really an opportunity for the Board of Ed and certainly myself as the superintendent to advocate for the needs of the district and bring forward these different categories here to you as a board and then to our town boards for consideration so that we can look ahead to the coming year. I thought it might be helpful to see some historical plus one percentages because we always like to keep things in perspective. This year we have brought forward to the board a 5.67% proposed increase. This number is primarily due to contractual increases. You may remember that last time I shared this with you, we talked about approximately 72% of the overall budget is salaries and benefits, the people, that we employ. We know that special education is always a driver, and that everything else is certainly less than 1%. Over the last 4 years, these are the plus one. It's not the approved budget. These are the plus one increases that have come forward. And so certainly we know that we strive to reduce these percentages. But over the last 4 years, this is the range. And so 5.67 is the lowest that we've seen in the last couple of years. And I thought that perspective would be helpful to you. So when we reviewed the questions that came in from the board, and as I said earlier, there was more than 20 questions. A couple of them were redundant, because you had similar wonderings. But it fell into these categories, really wanting to understand more about special education,
the programming that we have in district, and then specifically, but certainly related to special ed, board certified behavior analyst. A few of you asked about this role. Why is it important? What really is this position all about? This is relatively new. So we wanted to spend a little time explaining the importance of that role. The Bear Transition Academy is something that we wanted to provide a little bit of a deeper dive into the cost analysis. This is a program on site that costs money to run. So what is the value add for that particular program? There were some questions related to leadership structures and positions, as well as, directors and those types of roles. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit. And then we did propose already in this iteration of the budget some staffing reductions, and I wanted to just further explore those. There were a few questions about where those numbers, sort of came from. So I want to start with special education. You were afforded the opportunity to have a presentation from Kate Weingartner, who is our Director of Pupil Services. And she is at the district, works in central office alongside of our team. And she oversees special education programming in our district, both students that attend Granby Public Schools, and we are responsible for students that attend out-of-district placements because Granby is not able to meet their specialized needs, as well as students that attend private schools or parochial schools but require some special education. So it's a really busy job. And we have had a goal, certainly since I came to Granby, to look really carefully around the resources that we have in the district already and answer the question, how can we repurpose or reorganize some of the staffing structures and resources that we currently have to better meet the needs of our students, because we know that the population of special needs students is growing in number and even in the depth and breadth of need. We're seeing more needs from more students. And so what do we have in-house that we can develop? And so we have been able to reimagine or newly create a number of programs. RISE is brand new this year. Kate did speak to you about this. It is a K-2 program, it's an early program at Kelly Lane, our K-2 school. And this is for students with significant needs, developmental delays, autism spectrum, and significant needs that would otherwise not be met here in our district. And so that is brand new this year. We did not include this in the FY25 budget. We didn't know we needed it. We didn't know we could make this happen. But we had a resignation at Kelly Lane, and when we hired to replace that position, we did so with this in mind. And so we were able to create a small but mighty program to meet some of those needs. The next one that you see here is PAVE. This has often been referred to as a life skills program. We've just rebranded it a bit, personal, academic, and vocational experiences. And this class is really for the students that will eventually, many of them, will be candidates for the Bear Transition Academy. But this is while they're at the high school age. This is a program that's had a lot of success in Granby. We've just sort of rebranded it and organized it a bit differently, but really helps children to prepare for life beyond the classroom. I apologize for all the text on here, but there was just so much to say, and I thought you might want to refer to it at another time. We've talked a lot about the Bear Transition Academy. Just a reminder that we are obligated to provide education for students as determined by their IEP, their individualized education program, until the age of 22. So every special needs child does not qualify for this particular program. It's driven by their needs, but we are obligated to educate students in this category until the age of 22. We will have 8 students from Granby in this program next year, and we're going to look at that a little more closely in a minute. And then brand new, like within the last month and a half, We have started to organize a small space at the high school, existing space with existing staff to offer some alternative learning program. We are seeing a growing number of students that are suffering from anxiety, depression, eating disorders, post-traumatic stress, school avoidance, hospitalization, and they're coming back to the regular classroom. And so we have a need to provide a safe space that is staffed with mental health professionals, special education teachers, and teaching assistants. And so we did a very close look at our staff's schedules, and anywhere that we could, we pulled people into this space. So it is not staffed by the same person all day, but instead of perhaps facilitating a study hall, you're now in what used to be called the CASC the CASC room. You in last year's budget approved a full-time teaching assistant for that space, so there's always someone in there that knows our kids and works closely with them. And now we are rotating through social workers, school psychologists, and special education staff to really offer that second layer of support. So far, we're having a lot of success. And currently, and this will positively impact our budget, hopefully by the time you see the operating budget, we're working to bring students back to district because now we have a place that would appropriately meet their needs, whereas we've otherwise had to outplace students with severe anxiety or other types of needs. So we are super proud of this work. And we've not done it for cost savings. We've done it because it's what kids need and it's what's good for our school district. And we hope that the dollars and cents are going to follow because we can keep more students in district. Are there questions about that before I keep going? If that's okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind, if I can just clarify, us going through all these a variety of programs, I mean, the purpose of the growth of all of these internal SPED programs are to keep kids in Granby. At the same time, they're closer to home, they're in the town that they grew up in, they're with their their friends, their local peers, et cetera. And then we have an opportunity to, the not having to outplace does ultimately save dollars.
Now, how many staff are we adding for the Bear Transition Academy?
The proposal in the +1, I believe, is for 4 teaching assistants. Can I get a, yeah?
Yep.
4 teaching assistants, and that is because we will increase our number of students in the Bear Transition Academy by, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it correlates to the number of students that are, how many? 6 additional students on top of what we already have. Total numbers, not all the same kids. So we were increased by 6 next year, and so we need to add 4 staff members for that.
Yep.
Because of the level of need and the type of
yep.
program. Yep.
Can I just ask a question as well? So you said those 8 students are all Granby students.
Next year, my understanding is we will have a total of 8 Granby students in the Bear Transition Academy, and we are projecting to have 2 out-of-district students paying tuition to attend.
Great.
So we will have a total of 10 students next year.
Thank you.
And what are there,
And
like
currently we have
2
4.
this year?
4.
So 4 to
4
10.
plus 6, total of 10. Yep. And that's not a constant, right? I mean,
Sure.
It does ebb and flow a little, but that is our projection based on current numbers. Okay. This is too much to read. I'm not going to read it to you. You can take a look at it later. But what is a BCBA? What is a board certified behavior analyst? I wanted to just hit on a couple key things that the board has heard from us before, and they all sort of fall under this type of a position. Individualized support for students. So a BCBA is able to really work with kids with a variety of needs, special education students, and typically performing or not special ed, but having some behavioral challenges, a change in the home environment, a dietary need. There's a number of reasons why students may demonstrate some behavior that's concerning to the classroom environment. So this person is our first go-to in that regard. This absolutely improves academic performance because obviously we want kids to be able to attend, to learn, and those disruptions in the classroom when one peer or more is struggling harms the learning for everyone. It is absolutely cost effective. I recognize we do not want to add people to our budget. People cost money. It's the biggest cost in our budget. This position single-handedly helps us to keep kids in district. Each program that I just described works very, very closely with the BCBA, along with a number of students that have what's called BIPs, or behavior intervention plans, and those are students that have attention deficit disorder, or some executive functioning needs, or they're pretty nudgy. They need a lot of teacher attention. That board certified behavior analyst is able to assist the teacher to develop strategies that will help the child. They also crisis manage. There are experts in de-escalation. So when we have significant challenges in our schools, which, unfortunately we do. You heard a commenter say that, we've had the police at our younger grade levels. We have, and sometimes that's a safety issue. And so a BCBA would be able to de-escalate and work to prevent, and is also teaching our staff how to implement those de-escalation strategies. We're legally bound by those IEPs. You've heard me say that before. And this person is a member of the team. So rising tide lifts all ships, right? The more we know, the better we do. And so this is really an essential component to the team. Any more questions or thoughts on
I would love
BCBA?
to comment on that because I work with BCBAs every day in my job, and I find their role to be really specialized in data collection, so in really figuring out why kids are acting the way they are, and in providing staff with the supports that they need to figure out how to address it, that everybody's handling it the same way, and improving behavior for the classroom environment for all the other children too. So that, we know if a student acts a certain way in a certain situation, that we're responding to it in the right way to extinguish as many of those negative behaviors as we can. So it really, I think it improves the environment for the other teachers, it improves the environment for the other kids, and it really provides that last fail-safe before you go to something like an outplacement, that we have done absolutely everything that we can in district to help those kids. So that it's a really specialized role, and I don't think anybody else in a school district is as trained in the data piece and the fidelity check and then the accountability for everybody. It's really it's a newer kind of job, but it's very specialized and so essential. And I know we have had one in the past, but considering that we're trying to keep more kids in district, that role is, I think, really important.
Okay. So Bear Transition Academy, as we've already discussed, is our program. It's currently housed at the YMCA, and we are basing this cost analysis on the 8 students that are Granby Public School students that will be attending the Bears Transition Academy in the fall, in FY26. So those 8 students, at a cost of approximately $48,000, because not just the per pupil cost, it's all of these specialized services. That's what we determine approximately a student costs. The total cost to have this program in Granby is $388,000, just over, almost $389,000. If we did not have the Bears Transition Academy, and we had to send those 8 students to an out-of-district placement, another neighboring district or a specialized program, it would cost approximately $1.3 million to do that, $1.2 million to do that. And that's based on the elevated cost for each child, because now we are paying somebody else to do it. We're often also paying for a para or a TA still to accompany that child, if, depending on the district that we place them in, as well as transportation costs. And transportation costs are very expensive for these types of programs. So you can see that just by doing the basic math, which of course Nikki Stevenson does for me, not basic at all, we are
able to realize a savings of over $880,000. That's a sizable cost savings to our district. And this is real money. This isn't like if we had. These 8 students do attend our high school now, and we are legally obligated to educate them until they're 22. So having the program in-house saves these dollars, and I must say provides an amazing program for both our community and our students. This does not account for any students from neighboring communities that might attend the Bears program because their public school doesn't have such a program. And so there is then revenue that would be added to the savings. Am I saying that correctly, Nikki? So the $880K is a savings, and then we're averaging around 50, but it might be closer to 60 next year, what we charge to be able to send a child, to us. And so I think from a dollar and cents perspective, it's a really valuable asset to our school district. And certainly we know for our families, it's a very valuable program. Any questions about the cost analysis here? Okay. There were a number of questions about administrative positions and some of the positions that we proposed in the +1. In the +1 budget, we included a stipend for the wellness department, the PE and wellness department. And we don't currently have a department chair in that position. And we also included the movement of the director of school counseling from a 70% grant funded, 30% operating budget funding to 100% of that position being funded in the operating budget. And so I thought it might be helpful to give a little bit of background to the structures that we have in place for leadership. So on the left-hand side, you can see who are our building administrators. We have one principal in each of our 4 schools. At both the middle school and the high school, we have an assistant principal. Until this year, we had 2 assistant principals at the high school. This year, we have a principal, an assistant principal, and newly added dean of students position. The dean of students position is, for lack of a better way to describe it, the lowest level administrative position in the admin contract. It is very much an entry level position. In cost, it is the lowest. It's hard to say because I so value this position. I don't want it to sound as though we devalue the person or the position, but it is the lowest tier of our administrative contract. And so those 3 different roles are the leadership positions that are currently in place. Last year, in the FY25 budget, the one we're currently living, we proposed to you that instead of having 2 assistant principals at the high school, we would replace 1 assistant principal with a dean of students, and that's what we did. That structure, 1 principal, 2 assistant principals, in this year's budget, to a principal, an assistant principal, and a dean of students, was a cost savings of $64,000. That reduction in administration resulted in a $64,000 savings in the FY25 budget, and of course that will carry forward. And there's a couple of factors to that. One is that we retired veteran staff. So they were at a higher pay scale, and they were replaced with individuals that are at the earlier end of their career. So there's some natural savings there. The other savings was realized because an assistant principal role in the hierarchy of our salaries is a higher pay position than a dean. So I wanted to offer that, although not directly impacting the FY26 budget. It was a decision made last year. I think it's important for us to have an understanding around those leadership structures. This year, we're focused on
what we're calling, well, they are called in our teacher contract, a department chair. We currently have 7 department chairs in the district. They're listed for you there. And each of these positions are a teacher in the teacher contract, and their salary is correlated to the contract. So if they have 3 years experience or 5 years experience or 10 years experience, that's their salary. And then they receive an $8,000 stipend on top of their salary to be the department chair. A department chair has to have certain credentials. They need to have what's called an O92, and that is our administrative certification. And that's because they can assist with evaluation, and they can assist with curriculum and instruction planning, assessment. They do a variety of sort of teacher leadership roles. And we have a lot of success with these types of roles for a couple of reasons. One, it makes many hands makes light work, right? So it's a part of the infrastructure that provides support out in our classrooms and our departments. So the administrator can meet with the department chairs. Jen Parsons often meets with these teacher leaders, and then they in turn disseminate information for our classrooms. They also help to evaluate, and you saw in my +1 memo, one of our unfunded mandates are some significant changes to the teacher and administrator evaluation system. And so these individuals can assist with that rather than just the one principal or principal and assistant principal. And they provide really wonderful opportunities for teachers who wish to grow within our district. We're small, so job growth and trying on for size some administrative responsibilities is really beneficial to our teaching staff so that they can take on more leadership and also have a stipend to augment their salary. We are proposing in the coming budget that we add a department chair for wellness and PE. The question came, why wellness and PE? We would like them in every department. And $8,000 doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it adds up quickly. So we used a couple of factors to determine where we wanted to propose that for you this year. Wellness is K-5. It's across the entire district. Wellness is a very evolving field. Our wellness standards have recently changed. We know that our curriculum needs some updating, and we don't currently have the type of leadership that can help with that. We also know that PE and health require evaluation and supervision, and our principals, frankly, particularly at the elementary level, this would offer some support with that teacher evaluation system. We would love to add it to the arts, music and fine arts, and world language, and perhaps you will be seeing those proposals from us in the future, but we didn't think that it was responsible for the budget to add all of them at once, and so we did highlight that. And in addition, we highlighted the possibility of taking what we call a CAS, which is a smaller leadership stipend of $4,000, and looking at changing that into a department chair stipend at the 2 elementary schools. That's also in the +1 memo. And again, we're not talking about a person, we're talking about the stipend. So to offer some help with the evaluation structure. So in a nutshell, like in the simplest form that I could provide you, these are the building administration and then the teachers, and they receive a stipend to do this work. Are there additional questions about this structure? There's a lot of moving parts. Okay. All right. The other question related to staffing was, you're proposing a 3.8 reduction. So where is that coming from exactly? So we know based on our enrollment numbers, our projected sort of roll up, the kindergartners going to first grade, the first graders going to second grade, that we need one less section of classrooms at Kelly Lane, and we need one less section at Wells Road. So that will result in 2 full-time teachers that we do not need simply because of the numbers of kids in a particular grade level. The 1.8 we've identified as world language, but it's just a slight more complicated than that. And I may ask Jen Parsons to jump in if I don't get all the nuances of this reduction. But essentially, last year in the FY25 budget, the board made the very hard decision to begin the reduction of Mandarin at our middle school. And you might remember that we talked about not wanting to displace children that were currently in the Mandarin program, but just do a slow roll up with the current cohort. And so now we're at the place for the FY26 budget where one section of students will now move on to the high school, and they do not need a teacher to teach Mandarin. So that's a 0.2, I believe. And then we know that we currently have a long-term substitute teacher in French. You've heard me say before that I don't believe in laying people off, but if there's an opportunity, if there's already a resignation or a retirement, we want to look really carefully. And when we look at the numbers of students taking French currently at the middle school, it is very low. It is dwindling. And in addition to that, if we have a shared schedule with the middle school and the high school, given the numbers at both schools, there likely will be an opportunity to have that one FTE, a little middle school and a little high school. Am I explaining that correctly, Jen? Okay. And then lastly, we're expecting some additional situations like that once we realize a shared schedule. And you heard from some comments today around some of the proposals that are bouncing out there. The reality is we haven't settled on a schedule yet. We're still very much grappling with the 7 versus 8 because there's ramifications to either one. And so that work is still unfolding, but I do expect to be able to have more specific information soon, in time for the superintendent's proposed budget, so that if we can find cost savings, that's a nice caveat. It's not the reason for doing it, but it's a nice result. So the reality is there's some things that still need to be decided, but we thought it was a responsible number to say an additional 1.8. Okay. I would prefer not to speak to every question. We provided them ahead of time, and I thought that I might, and Monica, you can certainly let me know what you prefer, but I thought that I could just kind of pause at each question, see if there's anything folks want me to further explain. You let me know.
I'm interested to hear what the board thinks about that. Do we want to go through each individually?
Okay. No. Anyone wish to do that? Okay. I mean, I'm happy
that's fine.
to. And if there's one that's like, ooh, let's do this one, you just let me know. So the SRO, we gathered some data. I will just highlight that here in Granby, our proposal truly is a shared proposal. The 100K was a placeholder. And it depends on the person in that role, their years of experience. There's so many factors, right? It's a placeholder. But the town would support us with benefits. The town would support us with the specialized equipment, car, radio, firearm, training, all of the uniform requirements, which can be quite costly. So that number is not an exact number, and it's to be determined as we go forward. If the board decides to add that position, we'll spend more time with those details. This is, I think, a question we've already explored, the BCBA and the SRO. They're pretty different, very different roles. BCBA, we looked at this in detail. We didn't talk about this yet, so I'll pause here. Groundskeeper and maintenance. In the +1, we are proposing a full-time for each of these, and the question is, could we get away with a half-time? Of course we could. Would it meet our standards? Maybe not, and so Chris DeGray, our facilities director, shared some details around, what the work is, and I shared with you last time, the acreage and the square footage that we're working to clean. And so, again, this year we do want to advocate for those roles, but we understand that it comes with a price tag.
already discussed. Director of School Counseling, I think we already discussed this, but just as a point of clarification, the Director of School Counseling reports to Kate Weingartner, our Director of Pupil Services. She's on that side of the house. She does work at both the middle school and the high school. I think I, in error, did not make that clear last time. So she's the position is a 612 position. Julie Greeny, our previous assistant principal, had a slice at this position, and you may remember last year it wasn't effective. It's just too important of a job with our mental health needs and our college and career readiness to have it be a portion of another position. It was in the grant. My proposal is to move it into the operating, and so that's why we were talking about this position. Yes, we realize the savings when folks retire, but not as much, as we once did. So there is a $63,000 reduction in FY26 based on the two retirements that we know about right now. And how we calculate that is there for you. We used to budget like step 2 bachelor's. Now we budget the master's level step 6 because teachers are really hard to come by, and it's getting harder every day. And so we find that we're not having those early career teachers as often. So we just don't realize as much of a savings. Lunch recess monitor is non-certified position. It's an hourly position. Wellness department chair, I think I've already explained this, but there's the detail here in writing. It's really the size of the department and the needs of this new curriculum. We did this one already, 3.8 decrease. The electricity, Nikki explained here that we do go out to bid and we've locked in that rate, and she put the rate there for you. Delivery costs, just like at home, those delivery costs are high. Don't understand that. Someone delivers electricity. I don't understand. It's beyond my realm of experience, but that is where we're seeing the increase. Media Center, yes, someone noticed that it was a 9% increase. That's just about $5,000. It's directly aligned to the purchase of some additional print and online materials to replace aging inventory. So 9% is a big increase.
But
I think we could argue it's a small number.
Okay. It'd be the 9% increase does look dramatic, so.
Yeah,
But it's a $5,000.
To the overall budget.
Okay. Thank you.
It's 9% of the library media budget, but it's a $5,000 increase. The Q&D, there was a question about the differences. The 10% decrease is based on the FY25 approved budget. The FY26 budget is actually increasing 1.48 from the expected or anticipated expenditures. You can see the numbers there. Nikki, do you want to expand upon this? It's the magnet school that changed, correct?
Yes, so the expenses that we're realizing this current school year are going to decrease for magnet tuition. And that's due to legislation where they did put a cap on the amount that these magnet schools, including agri-science, can charge school districts at 58% of what was charged in 2023 and 4 for tuition. So whatever they charged in 2023-24, it's now 58% of that. And from what we can tell, that's moving forward indefinitely unless something comes up, unless something changes.
That's good news from the state.
Good news.
That's
So
good
it's
news.
decreased expenses in that line.
That's interesting.
There was a lot of
that's
pushback,
fine.
again, related to those costs being passed along to the ELA, to our budget for children to choose to attend magnet
It went
school.
back and forth quite a bit.
Okay.
But it was solidified, so we are, like I said, realizing those savings this current fiscal year, and they're being carried forward to next year.
So it's a good news one. We've already talked extensively about the Bear Academy, but we included more detail here.
The $12,000 additional support, someone saw that in the Q&D. This is open choice students. It's an open choice funded line. You know, if students need or families need assistance with transportation, field trips, it's like a scholarship opportunity for field trips and things like that. And it is a component of the open choice grant. We had the same conversation last year, and I think I ask this question all the time of Nikki when I look at the budget. It's a little misleading because there are two different lines that are related to substitute coverage, right? So the line that this question is focused on saying, you know, there's minimal funding for substitutes, like why is that? We know that absenteeism is a challenge. That particular line is only for current staff who give up a lunch or a planning period, so they work beyond the contractual obligations to cover maybe when a colleague is out sick. I have a plan period. I'm going to give up my plan period. I'm going to teach math for my colleague that's out, or those kinds of things. And so that is one line. And then the substitute line, where we're having subs come in, is currently budgeted at $400,000. That is a very large expense, and this is a significant increase. And that is because of the trend. We are overspending that line over the last number of years. It's really a huge challenge across our country. We're feeling it here in Granby as well. We discussed this in Finance Committee. We have realized a savings in our current budget for transportation due to some really persistence and hard work of Nikki Stevenson. And we have a 3-year contract with our busing vendor, correct? We are still negotiating the rate for FY26. We've had ongoing meetings. We're really hopeful any day now we'll have some result to those negotiations. And we are optimistic that we will see a reduction. But in the current +1 budget, this early iteration of the budget, we had to assume what the contract says, which is higher than we would like. So I do think this is something that I'll be able to bring to you with the first pass of the operating budget, where we will have a reduction in our transportation line, but we just can't responsibly assume that just yet. Those are the questions. What's next? 3-board meeting is right around the corner. I will bring you the first look at the superintendent's proposed on March 5th. We will workshop that budget. And then on March 19th, the board will aim to adopt, and the superintendent's proposed becomes the Board of Ed adopted. And then we bring that to the taxpayers of Granby. And I just want to reiterate that this is a really early budget, and we are absolutely committed to continue to really analyze. I can think of a number of areas that we are monitoring so closely. Certainly retirements help our bottom line, and we're anticipating that we may have additional retirements. I've already spoken about the transportation line. I've already spoken about special education. We're working really hard to bring kids back from out of district, and that will have a significant positive effect to our budget. We're always looking at staffing structures and what we need. That shared schedule may reveal some cost savings. And so, I just want to thank the board for your support and your thoughtful questions. And I need to take a moment to thank the school district team of administrators, teachers, and proofreaders and editors and everyone that helps pull this all together. It's a big task. And so I'm happy to answer any additional questions or anything you wish to discuss further. The cost analysis page.
Okay.
Spoke to that, but.
All right. Does anybody have any additional questions based upon all this information?
I actually do, and I didn't submit it earlier because I picked it up in looking at the proposed changes and proposals a little further in the past week. In the memo that you had provided to us in December, I was looking under the small cap and maintenance
projected expenses. And I saw there with regard to the oil tank removals for Wells Road and Kelly Lane, that there are proposed costs of $165,000 apiece to remove those underground storage tanks. My question is, has there been any indication that there have been any leaks associated with those tanks? If you know that, so that, something we.
So I can't answer
Yes.
that question. I will tell you.
Something to look into.
Yeah, I will tell you though that we've been watching these tanks for a number of years. When I started in the district just over a year and a half ago, it was presented to me as an urgent matter due to the fact that our insurance provider was very eager for us to get those tanks out of the ground. Not that it had presented a leak at this point. To my knowledge, that has not occurred. However, the potential for contamination and the fact that we do need to transition over to a different fuel source. So I am not an expert in that area, but we
Yes.
could absolutely send that out in an email because I see Krista Gray back there like, what is she saying? What is she saying?
Yes.
So I'd be happy to give you more detail.
Yeah, so specifically, that, I'd like to know what that cost estimate is based on, because to my understanding, there was an underground storage tank removed at Kearns at a cost of $18,000. So that projection at $165,000 seems pretty high in comparison to an actual cost that the town had expended to remove an underground storage tank at Kearns. So I'd like to know, you know,
We can answer a
look
little
into
bit of
that and see whether does that 165,000 also include the cost to convert to a different fuel?
does. It does.
Is that what it costs?
Yes, it
right?
does.
So that, I had that question. And then with regard to the cost estimate of $163,000 for the mandated state testing, HVAC system testing at the high school. That sounds really expensive to have testing done. So what went into that? Where, you know, what is the basis for that? That's all.
So we have answers to both of those, but I would prefer, if you're okay with it, that we get our ducks together. I will tell you that floored us as well, and without stealing his thunder, I'll have Chris DeGray share next time we're all together. He's done a lot of deep diving along with Nikki into the HVAC. It is an unfunded mandate. We are required to do one building at a time. In the +1, because it's the +1, because it's the opportunity to put everything out there for potential cost, I chose the high school, and that's the number for the high school. The number for Kelly Lane is closer to like 55,000. So in comparison, and it just has to do with the amount of HVAC systems that would need to be evaluated, but I know that I have just the person that can come and answer those questions for you next time we're together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I build on that for just a second? So if you selected the high school, then is it possible to do a different school
Yeah.
instead? So you selected
Oh,
the high
yeah.
school first.
Oh,
but-
yeah, I don't want to give you in the +1 a 50,000 and then find out I have to do the high school for some reason. Yeah,
165,000.
now is the time for me to put the larger number out there. So, you know, that's a great example of a cost savings that we would likely be able to realize when we get, 2 months down the line, when we're at the operating budget. I have the costs for all 4. We're discussing right now the fact that we likely have to go out to bid for this work. You know, it's multifaceted, but it's a requirement. We know we have to do it, and we need a little more time to research the method and the process, and we'll have to go out to bid for this as well.
Okay.
Yep. All things I didn't know about before taking this job. HVAC and roofs.
You've learned a lot about building maintenance.
Yeah.
Are there any additional questions? Anybody else have anything else they'd like to ask? I know that we say this all the time, but the +1 budget is very unique to Granby.
It is.
And it's an opportunity for us to put everything out there and advocate for the possibilities for our district. So, yep. Any further questions? I just want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to ask whatever they want to ask before we move on to the next step. And then we're going to keep talking about this ad nauseum, as we all know, every single year we do this.
That's true.
So, that being said, do I have a motion?
I think I have a comment, maybe not so
Okay.
much of a question.
Go ahead.
What is it, 5.6?
6-7.
5.67 is a big number. And, I have children in the district. I have one who's graduated, one who's here. I'm an educator, right, which I think is the reason why I'm on the board. But I'm also thinking about my dad, right? So he retired from combustion engineering and, he had $800 pension and a $1,200 Social Security check, and he was trying to live on $2,000 a month. And, you see these 5% and 6% increases year after year, and we've had like 2 of them in a row now. And to go to a third year of like 5 or 6%, I just don't think is sustainable. And I would be shocked, honestly, if the community managed to find a way to rally behind that. And every idea on here has merit. That's not the only consideration, though. I think we have to, balance the needs of our students with the needs of everybody else in the community. And, I'm going to vote because out of respect for this +1 budget process, which I find very convoluted, and I wish we could change it. But I think we should bring it forward, but I don't think it'll survive the next vote if it's still anywhere near this number. And I think the superintendent needs to work with Mike Werko and the Board of Finance and everybody else and just get out the pencils. And, last time I asked if anything from the previous year was under consideration, the answer was no. I think it has to be. I think we have to go back and say, do we want the behavior specialist or do we want this program or whatever? And if we're ready to do that, it's going to be really hard to get to that number.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Dave, at all. We've got a series of hard decisions ahead of us. There's no question about it. We all are experiencing higher costs. We're all experiencing all sorts of, with kids in the school, there's a lot of layers of complications, increase in special need costs or special education costs, et cetera. We have a lot of opportunity here, and I think what I'm feeling optimistic about is the growth of our in-house programs to keep kids in Granby. I think there's a lot of work in progress to make improvements there that'll ultimately help our bottom line. But I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. There's a series of hard decisions that we're going to have to make of what will best serve our community and what we can prioritize.
And to add to what Dave said, we have a shrinking student population. And when you look at the fact that this student population is shrinking and our budget just keeps going up further and further, I think that's a hard sell to the taxpayers. And we are in a unique town in that we don't have the business to support, unfortunately, our budget. The budget is borne on the taxpayers' backs. So as elected representatives of those taxpayers, we need to really take a close look and see what we can cut and what we can do without to get it into a more reasonable range. That said, I do appreciate the work that has gone into this. I know that there's a lot of work that goes into putting this budget together with regard to the administrators at the schools and the superintendent. But I think as a board, we need to really look at this and see where we can pare it down. Because at the end of the day, the taxpayers have to fund this.
Yeah, and starting next week, starts the collaborative process with the other boards, and this is where the real work gets going. We have a baseline. This is our baseline, and we go from here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm under no illusion as a board member that we're going to ask people for 5.6%. I think we all understand the spirit of this +1 process. I'm kind of with you, Dave. On this layer of this process, I see it as my responsibility as someone elected to the board to be an advocate first for our students, for our admin, to make sure that our, student population is being given everything that they need to succeed in a way that's responsible for our taxpayers. So, I think there's a priority, and then there's sort of the consequence of that priority that is, very, very top of mind as well. I think we all know what we need to do here and the work that needs to get done and the conversations that we need to have, and they are difficult conversations. we dig in.
All right, any further comments from anyone? Okay. Do I have a motion in regard to the +1 budget?
I'll move.
Go ahead.
I'll move that the Granby Board of Education approve the FY '26 +1 budget to be forwarded to the Board of Finance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. And we've got 2 months of work ahead of us, okay? Up next, business requiring action. There we go. In regard to the minutes for the December 18th, 2024 meeting, I'm looking for a motion to approve the
I
minutes.
move that the Granby Board of Education approve the minutes of the December 18th, 2024 Board of Education meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. The motion carries. All right, next up, and I think we have an audience member who's been waiting patiently for this, the approval of the June 2025 graduation date. This is an opportunity for us to discuss the approval of the June 2025 graduation date, which I understand is currently slated for Tuesday, June 10th. Rain or shine, no rain date this year.
Correct. I'm curious if that accounts for any potential snow days coming between now and then?
So it does not. There's no, so let me start answering your question by saying this. We are legally obligated to have our students in school for 180 days. Snow days then need to be made up. They need to be tacked on to the end of that projected last day of school. So the projected last day of school is Monday, June 9th.
Oh, sorry, 9th.
Monday, June
Monday,
9th. We have had one snow day. So our last day of school now is Tuesday, June 10th, and that is the date that we are recommending our seniors graduate on. That means that they have attended school 180 days, which is our requirement. If I call a snow day tomorrow, which isn't going to happen, that day would be made up by our kindergarten through grade 11 students, but our seniors have that privilege of being able to continue graduating on Tuesday, which is that 180th day of school. If I call 3 snow days, they will still graduate on Tuesday, June 10th. Now, you might ask, well, we love Fridays. Why don't we just graduate on June 11th till 13th? Friday the 13th? But we could potentially be adding, Katie, 3 days to the calendar for our seniors if in fact we don't call snow days. They have exams and they have senior privileges, so they actually would have not been attending class for a little bit of time as well. And so it really is best practice to identify that 180th day as the graduation date. We did a little looking, the superintendent's group had this conversation recently. There was even an article in the Hartford Courant about snow days and what they've been averaging. I mean, it's usually 2 to 3. It might feel like more, but that's because we have delays and early releases and other things. I can't forecast the weather with any certainty. It's likely we'll have another snow day or 2, but our recommendation is that we use that identified 180th day of school for our seniors' graduation date. That's why we have that recommended date for you.
But none of them go to school after Memorial Day anyway.
Well, I can't. I tried to say they have senior privileges.
She did say legally. That's the caveat,
Yeah.
legally.
I know, believe me, I understand. Had a few seniors myself.
And I would put a plug in for volunteering to help out at the graduation party. I know I've done it the last 2 years and it's a blast. And seniors don't want their parents to be there. So those of us that don't have seniors, it's an opportunity to kind of think ahead to what the kids are going to do. It's a good time. It doesn't actually go all night. You'll be in your bed by, I don't know, 3 or something, but.
But it is hard to do it, I would agree with what Jen said, in the middle of the week, for those of us who do work.
Yeah.
I have worked the Safe Grad, and it is a great night, and I very much enjoyed working it. But I do agree that it is hard to do it on a weeknight. And I also recognize that for people who are graduating, sometimes if they want family members to come in for the graduation, it's also hard to do in the middle of the week. So I recognize that as being a concern. That said, our representative who will be graduating this year said it would be a hard no to have graduation on the 13th if the last day of the school is the 10th. So
I would think.
Just seems like bad luck.
I think it's,
Oh, okay.
I think it's the date. The
date.
Not the
delay.
extra days of school,
Got
but the
it.
date, right? Yeah. Oh, we're shaking our head to both. Nothing good about it.
Yeah. I know, it's
So I
not
recognize-
ideal.
I
know.
recognize all the concerns.
So this is purely coming from a place of ignorance. You can't in school on the 180th day and just do the ceremony later?
So I understand in philosophy why you might suggest that. I would advise against it for a couple of reasons. Once we graduate, we graduate. Once we leave that school experience, we leave the school experience. So having the last day of school be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a Friday graduation. And I'll speak from my parent lens just as much as my educator lens. It's also an opportunity for our young people to make poor choices and not walk across the stage. I would not recommend a break. I think that would be challenging for students and families, but I absolutely love the idea of it because I know we would all love a Friday graduation and a Saturday party and all those things. I will say that we're able now with the new legislation to set this date early. That's relatively new. It's just in the last 5 or so years that we've been able to do that. It was just before COVID. And so put in for those vacation days and personal days and come on out and enjoy graduation and enjoy the Safe Grad night and take the day off and enjoy that time with your family. So, I think that we just have to do what we can to make that work. But certainly this is a decision that the board can make. The requirements are that our kids are in school for 180 days.
I do agree that it's nice to know that the date is set.
Yeah, it's early.
And that's it. And especially without the rain date for planning, I
Right.
know, for planning purposes, I know how important that
Yeah,
is. for
and we
safe
heard
grad.
that last year,
Yes.
and we thought we were doing a good thing because so many people are disappointed when they can't have unlimited family and friends come, and so we heard that request prior to. We thought we could make that work. I think it did work in hindsight, but we don't want to experience it again. So we've, under advisement, not recommending a rain date, just that one date. If it is inclement weather, we will move indoors, and that will reduce the number of attendees. But we think that will work just fine. So, yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I will move that the Granby Board of Education approve the June 2025 graduation date to be Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, rain or shine, as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Dave.
This is open for discussion here. We kind of pushed the discussion before the motion, but do we have any further discussion in regard to this? Okay, I just want to say thank you to Jennifer in particular for her hard work and her dedication in making Safe Grad Night so wonderful for our students. I know it's a longstanding tradition and everyone really enjoys it. And in a perfect world, we wish we could make it a Friday and make it easier for everyone. So thank you for your flexibility, and we will we will work to recruit volunteers.
The coffee is free, everybody.
Free coffee, all right. All in favor,
Jen.
You didn't say it was free coffee.
And as always, I will send my check.
Right, that's the other thing you can do, donate.
All in favor of the motion presented?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the graduation date is set for Tuesday, June 10th, rain or shine. I know it's getting a little late here, so I'm going to try to rush through these as quickly as we can and still provide all the information necessary. Committee reports, board standing committee reports, curriculum, policy, technology, communication met at the very beginning of December. Okay, so they will be meeting next time on February 5th, I believe.
Yes.
Finance, personnel, facilities, Donna?
Yes, so we met earlier this evening and we approved the budget expense report for December 2024. We also spoke about the CPPAC, also known as CPAC, update. And the superintendent advised us that although they are not meeting in January or February, they are preparing a fact sheet on the Board of Education's priorities regarding the turf track and field, the middle school, and safety and security updates, which will be presented at a future date. We also discussed the transportation contract, the fact that we had this wonderful savings, thanks to Nikki negotiating a savings on that contract, but that there are 2 years left on the contract. And as of right now, our budget projections are based upon the contractual prices. So in the interim, Nikki is meeting with CREC to negotiate and try and bring those prices down as she has successfully done for us this past year. With regard to the +1 budget, we discussed that the superintendent would be presenting the responses to the questions this evening, which she has done. And finally, the other thing that we discussed was with regard to outstanding meal balances at the high school and the pursuit of reimbursement or potentially other people who have made some donations to help offset those. And that was it. That's all we discussed.
All right, thank you, Donna. Does anyone have any questions for Donna? All right, thank you. Other board-related reports, CREC CABE. I have a board chair leadership meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m., so I'll be attending that. Not sure what the topic is, but I'll keep everyone apprised if it's in regard to legislation. There's a lot of legislative updates coming up now, so I'll keep everyone apprised if there's anything there.
May I share something related to CREC, the CREC committee? So we've been challenged to have a representative on the CREC committee due to the fact that they meet at, I think, 11 a.m. Via Zoom or in person. Through our transportation negotiations, I had an opportunity to have a one-to-one conversation with the executive director, Greg Furio, and I advocated for the fact that that's really challenging for boards that work. He explained that they compete with evening board meetings. Everybody doesn't do Wednesdays. Everybody doesn't do Mondays. And so other than a Friday, it was really challenging to identify an evening. However, he said that they've been hearing that more from boards and the challenge, and they were going to be discussing it at their executive board level, and that he was perhaps proposing like a 4:30 or a 4 o'clock meeting. It would always be via Zoom. He's going to update me if they are able to make a change to that committee so that we could have a representative attend.
That would be great.
One more meeting for someone to join, but I will keep you posted on that. I thought it was good information to pass along.
No, that's fantastic information. It would be great if we were able to have somebody participate, but it is challenging since all of us work.
Yeah.
Granby Education Foundation.
They have not met, but Kim Becker, who's the head of it, said to stay tuned for details on the Granby.
Okay. Man, it's coming up already. Jeez. Calendar of events is in the back of the packet. I'm not going to go through it for everyone. Board member announcements. I'm just going to take a moment of liberty here. It's not an official announcement, but I do want to thank everyone on the board for working collaboratively in regard to the budget. Us working together is really paramount to us being able to successfully work with the other boards as well. So I appreciate everyone's feedback. I appreciate people who talk to me outside of the meetings and give me information or concerns, and thank you for all working collaboratively. It means a lot. Does anyone have any other announcements? Action items?
So we're going to look for a report from Superintendent Burke on the underground tank removal and the HVAC testing.
Perfect, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Granby Board of Education adjourn the Board of Education meeting this evening.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Holly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
That was hilarious, the way that was worded.
That was very good.